Mr. Walter, yesterday the Daily Caller published a story complete with the links to emails discussing how a senior advisor at BOEM sought the advice of Natural Resources Defense Council and the Ocean Conservancy when attempting to figure out a legal justification for BOEM to incentivize developers to invest in underserved communities as part of the Biden administration's Justice 40 agenda. When they could not provide a sufficient legal opinion, she continued to reach out to other activist groups for a legal strategy rather than the solicitor's office at the DOI. Now, I do think it is fair to say that every presidential administration should set its own agenda. I understand that. This is normal and to be expected. However, senior level of agency officials leaning on outside activist groups while in office for our legal strategy to implement the administration's priorities is not a generally accepted practice. I would assume, is it?
No, obviously you would normally go to your own experts, and if it's a legal matter, you could also, of course, go to the DOJ's appropriate section.
So why do you think BOEM initially sought legal advice from the environmental and activist groups?
It's obvious actually in the emails themselves with those other groups. They did not have a leg to stand on legally, and the outside groups admitted that and said, you're coming to us because you can't invent any legal leg to stand on for the policy you're trying to push here.
Now, additionally, back in February of 2021, NRDC emailed an exhaustive list of recommendations to BOEM for developing their offshore wind leasing program. Many of these recommendations are now implemented, such as in BOEM's North Atlantic right whale offshore wind strategy, which included the NRDC's recommendations for avoiding leasing in areas that could impact the right whale and setting noise limits during construction to address potential impacts on marine life. Mr. O'Neill, what do you think of these documented close relationships between these activist groups and BOEM and the potential for improper influence on the development of their offshore wind leasing programs?
There's an extreme potential for improper influence. And what we've seen over and over again, in this case in particular as well, this sue and settle strategy, where an activist group that shares the broad policy preferences of the administration sues an administrative agency for a change in the law, claiming that there's a legal requirement. And then what the agency ends up doing is settling that lawsuit, agreeing to implement the legal requirement while circumventing the natural requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act and the notice and comment period. And we've seen this happen over and over again. The Biden administration has just ratcheted it up. And the example with BOEM is a #1 example of that.
So do you think that BOEM allowed the oil and gas industry a similarly high level of input to guide the development of the 2024-2029 oil and gas leasing program, which only scheduled 3 potential oil and gas leases under sales in the Gulf area of Mexico program area?
You're joking, right?
Why not?
Yeah. Well, of course the oil and gas industry does not have this kind of access. And this is, we've seen where the access is in the Biden administration. It's all of these radical left-wing groups funded by dark money that have a bone to pick against oil and gas as an industry overall because they're following this climate alarmist agenda that believes that if you burn 1 drop of oil, you're going to bring about the end of the world. Meanwhile, we've seen over decades, all of the climate alarmist predictions fail to come to pass. The Maldives have yet to sink beneath the waves. Kilimanjaro has yet to lose all of the snow that Al Gore predicted would be gone by 2020. So this agenda yet is influencing the whole, influencing the administrative state in ways that go around Congress, in ways that allow the administration to implement its agenda without these checks that have been created by the law. And meanwhile, the ranking member brought up Project 2025. I just want to set the record straight. Project 2025, and I'm not here as a representative of Heritage or the Daily Signal or Project 2025, but what Project 2025 is trying to do is it's trying to make the administrative state more accountable to the American people who elect a president every 4 years. When a Republican president enters office, the administrative state is so wedded to these left-wing groups and this left-wing agenda that the people's elected president is unable to fulfill his promises to the American people. And that is what Project 2025 is focused on.
My time has expired. We're going to go to